Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our next session is on airport expansion and upgrades to serve a growing market. We had a very interesting discussion in the morning, and we felt that aviation today is caught in a tug of war between expansion versus containment. The traffic, the growing traffic demands expansion, but the lobbies, environment and all other lobbies which want to contain the process. So in this, we are actually in a catch-22 situation, and most of our airports look like as if they are the perpetual construction sites. The construction never stops, yet, apparently. So we have a panel of 5 distinguished experts who have given their might to take care of such issues, and they would highlight issues and matters. We have Rajiv Jain, who is the president of Mumbai International Airport. Rajiv. Then we have His Excellency Khalifa Al Zafin, the executive chairman, Dubai Civil Aviation Corporation. Please, would you join us, sir? Vincent Thomas is the CEO of Pembrey Airport, UK. Vincent? Anyway, yeah. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
We have Paul Reed, the Managing Director of NATS Services. And our another distinguished speaker is Alan Lamond. He's the Vice Chairman, British Aviation Group, BAG. Each one of us, after a very brief introduction, would have 5 minutes to address the question that would be earmarked to them. And each one of them has plenty to talk, but because of time constraint, we will restrict ourselves. And then we would like your extensive participation. Ask us as many questions, not very difficult, but do that so that we can come to your expectations. We'll start with Rajiv Jain, and the question put to him is, which are the most significant barriers to airport expansion? Why we decided to give this question to him, because he is managing an airport in Mumbai which is going through a big expansion program, yet it's a very active operational airport. So he'll tell us about what are the hassles in managing the two things in parallel, going ahead with expansion without hampering a smooth flow of air traffic. Rajiv, 5 minutes for you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think the topic which I am been asked to speak, I am facing it every day. We took over this airport in 2006 from Airports Authority of India. Total available land is about 1,800 acres. Out of that, what is available for development is hardly anything. About 300 acres of land is encroached. More than 250 acres of land is with other agencies who have their facilities, which should be at airport or not, that is a debatable issue. We have one main runway, another secondary runway, which is a cross runway. Capacity is constrained by our airside capacity. Over and above that, we have to develop a new airport, make a new terminal to handle 40 million per annum passengers. But at the same time, we have to operate the airport. So it is like doing a open heart surgery while the patient is walking around and he's doing the work. So it is extremely difficult, and we have to maintain our ratings, which are mandated with, as per our agreement. But all these challenges we could face. Airport development is taking place. We are likely to start international operations from our new terminal by this year end, and domestic operation from new terminal by next year end. This journey of about 7 years which we have completed has given us lot of experience. And basic hurdles which are faced in when you develop this airport, first is natural constraints like there is no land. That is the first constraint which we faced. Next comes managing various stakeholders. Because once you go to a particular stakeholder and ask, you please vacate, we have to shift you, or you have to go out of airport, the immediate reaction is that whatever you do, we are not ready to go out, or we are not ready to even relocate elsewhere. There are certain facilities which need to totally go out of airport because there is no relevance of those facilities to be at airport. So this is the second challenge, dealing with various stakeholders in such a way that they understand what is the issue, then we work together with them and achieve our purpose. This was the second biggest challenge which we had. Third challenge is cost. When you develop such airport and when you start, you don't realize that what could be the hidden cost which you never expected. Because if you relocate a facility, everybody wants a new facility at your cost and the best possible facility. So those costs are very important when we go along. Next is, in such, when you develop these type of airports, other than physical constraints, economic constraints, how regulator will take your cost, whether it will be approved or not. Stakeholders will make a lot of objections that why this cost is so much, why it should have been less. So that managing stakeholders, satisfying regulator, that is another challenge which has to be taken care of. Over and above this, when your already airport is there, and Mumbai airport was having the lowest charges in the world just 3 years back. And then last year, in 2011, it was number 2 from the lowest. Dubai was the lowest below Mumbai. So people, all airlines, passengers, everybody is used to such low charges which have no economic relevance with the cost of managing airport. So once new terminal is being developed and lot of capitalization is taking place, certainly charges have to go up. Managing all the stakeholders for such eventualities is another challenge which has to be faced. Then we have to deal with environmental issues. We have to deal with stakeholders who are living around airport because of noise, because airport is within the city. That also has to be well taken care of. So overall, all the stakeholder management, cost controls, regulation, tariff, then funding of the airport, because there are so many unexpected costs which may crop up. Even that is a very big challenge. But so far, we have handled them quite very efficiently. Airport is nearing completion. Part of it, we are going to open this year end, and hopefully it will be one of the best airports.
Good, thank you. It shows how preoccupied a person is when he is an airport director. Now we have the pleasure and honor of having His Excellency Khalifa Al Zafin, the Executive Chairman, Dubai Aviation City Corporation, amongst us. And the question that we wish to pose, Your Excellency, is what factors must be considered during the planning, design, and development phase? He needs no introduction, but I must say His Excellency Khalifa Al Zafin is a global figure within the aviation industry and is responsible for setting the strategic vision for Dubai World Central. At the heart of the development lies the Al Maktoum International Airport, which once complete will have the capacity to handle up to 160 million passengers and 12 million tons of cargo annually. In addition to his role at DACC, he is also the executive chairman of Dubai Aviation Engineering Projects. The vision of DWC, which he had, and it's taking good shape. With that, I would request Your Excellency to say a few words on this topic.
Thank you very much.
Well,
How
if
much
you're
time you
comfortable
have?
there, you're welcome. If you want to come here, you're welcome, whichever.
No, I am fine. When you consider building an airport, I think the most important thing is what direction and what is the policy and the strategy of the country itself, the government. Is there any problem? Okay. And what is really the view? If you look at our situation, Dubai is, the dynamics of Dubai is very much a very powerful catalyst for growth, and therefore Emirates Airline, following suit, is a very powerful catalyst for growth, and from there everything else stems. If you look at us a few years ago, then we just finished Concourse 1, which is called now Concourse C. Our boss was with me and we are overlooking the whole empty terminal or concourse. And he said when this one would be filled. In no time, we filled it up. Then we built Concourse 2, Terminal 3, which is B and Terminal 3, and then Concourse A. Now we are in the middle of building Concourse D, and there is more to come in Jabal Ali. So the biggest catalyst for all our growth is really Emirates Airline. Everybody else within the industry that we know of, within Dubai itself, within the civil aviation, within the, I would say, the society that we are in, is aligning behind that. And you have customs, immigration, Dubai airports, the whole Emirates group, and us being the builders, are actually aligned behind one thing, is to increase capacity as fast as we can, and to produce terminals and facilities that are world-class, and to make the passenger experience is one of the best in the world. We are striving for that. I don't think we are there yet, but we are really trying very hard. We're looking at something else now. We really would like to use the technology. We can build bigger and much bigger terminals with armies of officers for customs, immigration, you name it, but where that one would take you. We're looking very much nowadays into electronic borders. We are looking nowadays into the edge of technology and IT to help us with the processing of the passenger, especially for a hopping operation where most of the product is actually transferred, and how to make and meet all these challenges and yet make the passenger experience a very pleasant one. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your advice and tell us how to go around taking care of this airport expansion and upgrades to serve a growing market. Now we have Winston Thomas, who is the CEO of Pembrey Airport, UK. Winston is the owner and CEO of Pembrey West Wales Airport Limited, and he is a licensed pilot from UK and USA. What I found very daring in this Winston is that he obtained a lease of an abundant former Air Force aerodrome, which closed in 1958, and restored Pembrey Airport to a licensed commercial airport. Now, all over the world, during the two wars, there are so many such airstrips lying, doing nothing, and most of them have become a cattle grazing ground, at least in India. So this was a very, very innovative way of going ahead, capturing that, taking it on lease, and a very daring effort on his part. And he is the CEO of that airport. The question that we thought we could ask him was, who should be involved in the expansion and development task force? And how could stakeholder management assist with mitigating potential challenges? So, Winston, you will tell us all about this in 5 minutes. That's another challenge.
Yeah, good afternoon all. After spending 24 years in America, I came home and it was a privilege for me to have the opportunity to actually develop and construct an airport from a disused military airport for the area of Carmarthenshire, which is in west of London. A very needed airport because the employment is quite low. And to be able to generate employment, inward investment, job creation and tourism, you can't do it without an airport. So I decided to take this opportunity to build the airport basically from scratch because it was disused and lots of disused materials, which we had to clean up. But after 6 months, we got this runway in service. And we are doing a combination of work now. We're doing civil work, civil aircraft, and military aircraft. Pembrey Airport is a very unique airport because it's one of the only facilities in the United Kingdom that can actually offer services to the military for the training of military personnel, including the C-130 aircraft, which is the Hercules, known better to some people as the Hercules aircraft, which can actually land on the beach. This kind of training is not available anywhere else in the United Kingdom, and the military are very pleased to have this available to them, you know. So, and then of course the other part of it is actually refueling Chinook aircraft, Merlins, and that type of aircraft, which is very important to the military to give the support that they need on a worldwide basis. So the whole project has been very good for the area and also for myself. Now the other things that's actually evolved around that development was the other things like the marinas, Jack Nicklaus Golf Course, a brand new horse racing circuit which has cost 24 million. In all, we've actually contributed about 84 million into the local economy, which is very pleasing to the local councils and government in that area. So the project is very good. I certainly very pleased and excited about the whole thing, and we're looking now for further investments so we can actually take it forward to provide services for larger aircraft. We're actually currently doing MRO servicing for military aircraft. Now, the reason for that is because they have to do servicing in the field, so to speak, because if they go to a foreign country, they don't have the privileges of having actually a hangar to do the servicing. So they have to do servicing in the field, out in the open. And again, Pembrey is a key factor in that. So I'm certainly pleased to be here today and to thank the organisers for inviting me. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Paul Reed, who is the Managing Director, NETS Services. The question that we thought we can pose to him is, what impact do ATC management and operations coordination impact have on the airport's ability to meet demand? To introduce Paul, he has over 25 years experience in air traffic management and was appointed as NATS Managing Director in 2010. NATS, as you probably all know, is the UK's major provider of air traffic management services and a global leader in innovative air traffic solutions. We're looking forward to his answer and tell us how to mitigate problems of making it from A to B very fast, flying at 30 to 40,000, but what are the problems that we encounter when we have already reached the airport and we keep on hovering over the city for a slot to land? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I almost felt like I might be on the wrong panel given the length of the debate on the last at the last panel, but it's good to see that it's a real live issue in the region, and that air traffic management now has the kind of focus that I think it's needed for a while. So does ATM play a part in an airport's ability to meet demand? Well, of course, the answer to that is yes, it does. It's integral. I believe that air traffic management must be included in the early stages of any planning, and it should be integral to the investment case. After all, aircraft movements are what bring the passengers, and the passengers are the lifeblood of the airport economy. And I'm not sure, really, if some of the big airports really understand air traffic management or the airspace issues. And given it's such an integral issue, I think more time, more money, more investment should be put into the understanding of the air traffic management issues, and should be put into their resolution as well. I also believe that air traffic has to align with the airport business model. I think for too long now, the options in air traffic control have been take it or leave it. Very often is seen as an area where people don't really understand. It can be a little opaque, and I think now air traffic providers have to be more transparent. They have to align themselves with the airport business model, and they have to understand what drives the airport. And in a region like the Middle East, there are big hub airports, and air traffic plays a huge part in the successful delivery of the business model and the passenger movement. And without an effective air traffic management plan and provision, then the whole airport business model falls apart. I personally like the liberalised market model. I think it encourages innovation, and it encourages a real drive towards excellence, both at that airport and regionally. But I also think, and in that model, I think it's very important that air traffic providers are incentivised around their performance. I don't think they should be any different to any other part of the airport. So for me, it's about incentivising and penalising if necessary, and for the air traffic provider to be taking the absolute accountability for their part in the system. And if you take that, as a concept, then I think, air traffic management can be a value generator, not just a necessary evil. If you look at the UK system, Gatwick Airport, 55 air traffic movements an hour on one single runway. Heathrow's 90. Delays are less than 7 seconds per flight. There's 90% continuous descents from minimum stack at 7,000 feet to the ground. And these are all in place because that's what our customers want. That's what's important to the customers. And I think, I should also say that I think the next big thing in air traffic is going to be linking, just to touch on something that the gentleman from Air Arabia talked about before, the next big thing is going to be linking the ground systems with the avionics in the aircraft far more directly than they are today. This is a huge area that remains untapped, and frankly, the technology and the capability in the airport far outweighs any of the technology or capabilities that the air traffic management system is able to provide at the moment. But of course, as has been mentioned, the air traffic management system stretches way beyond the airport. And I think Paul Griffiths was pretty direct in his comments when he called for an effective local and regional airspace solution. That also unlocks or limits airport capacity and demand. There are a lot of hub airports here in this region, as there are in places like the UK. They all have different needs, but they can all be integrated. Without an effective regional solution, these airports and the airports in this region will not be able to generate the capacity capacity or the volume or the value that indeed they would wish to. But all of this is it's not, as we say, rocket science. It is absolutely achievable. It's already done in other parts of the world. A regional solution is not beyond our current thinking and our current technology, but it does take a political will, and it does take partnership with people that have done it, that understand it, and that know how to do it again. So in summary from me, I think the ATM does play an integral part in any kind of airport development. It's an essential part of the jigsaw, and I would just say that an airport system is only as good as its weakest link. And without attention and investment, there is a real risk that in this region in particular, the ATM is becoming the limiting factor. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. These were the preliminary comments from each one of the experts on the podium. We'll request any one of you to ask any question so that the panel can respond to. If there are any questions, please raise your hand, introduce yourself, and put up the question, please.
Should I ask?
How can I do that? Sorry, we have our distinguished speaker, Alan Lamont, the Vice Chairman of British Aviation Group. Alan is Aviation Director at Pascal Wilson Architects, one of the world's well-known aviation architects. He has worked on numerous projects, including those at Stansted, Gatwick, Manchester, Leeds, Bradford, and the list goes on and on. He was the project director for the recently completed €600 million Dublin Airport Terminal 2, and is currently the project director for the new terminal at Jeddah Airport in Saudi Arabia. He's also the chairman, vice chairman now, and immediate past chairman of the British Aviation Group. So may I request Alan to have 6 minutes, an extra minute for this little slip up.
The question that was being posed is can there be a best practice approach to airport expansion? And broad summary, of course there is. And the point to make, of course, is that there isn't one answer, because every airport is different. Every airport is different for a remarkably numerous set of different challenges. Every site is different. Every airport boundary is different. Every airport's environment and local environment constraints are different. They have different neighbours that all impact on the way that airport can expand. But most notably, they have radically different passenger profiles and passenger growth profiles. But you've got to be able to determine what the differences are between domestic and international, or with a European environment, the Schengen, non-Schengen. You've got to be able to understand what the different ratios are of transfer passengers to originating and destinating, and how those profiles change at peak periods. You've got to understand the differences between full-service airlines and low-cost carriers and the different demands that they have. And one of the key constraints in understanding what your capacity is how many home-based carriers are there? How many planes do you want to be parking there as their base, with all the attendant facilities that you need to provide with those? Not only are the passenger numbers different, passenger dynamics different, cargo traffic is different in almost every position. And there's a whole raft of different customs, local practices, different service standards for all the numerous stakeholders who are engaged in making an airport run smoothly. So there is no one set of rules that applies for everything. But if you're trying to address capacity, there are 4 key things that you've got to touch on. And Paul, and in truth the other panel mentioned one of them, it's the airspace. You've got to make sure that you have the capacity in the airspace to be able to handle your growth demand. And there are a number of good examples as to how underutilized capacity is, but you need to have a systematic approach to be able to improve that, to make the optimum use of the airspace and the airspace design that you have. The next key challenge is about the airside infrastructure. Most obviously the runways. How many runways can you work and how many can you use to be able to handle the demand, and how well can you manage those to be able to get the sorts of throughputs that Paul alluded to. Gatwick taking 55 movements an hour, Heathrow off 2 runways getting to 90. These are really well-honed machines with a lot of specialist knowledge being applied to them to make sure they can run at that sort of capacity on a consistent basis. But it's not just the runways. You've got to have the taxiway system that enables you to be able to support that, particularly when you're starting to run these runways really aggressively in terms of the throughputs. But the key determinant in terms of your airside infrastructure has got to be the number of stands you provide, the balance between contacts and remotes, getting that configuration right, and finding best utility for all that space that you need in an airport to run it at a big, efficient beast. The terminal capacity is but one of those components. It's a very evident one, and obviously the architects amongst us, and myself included, that's where the core of our focus tends to be. But at a master planning level, the key challenge in particularly large airports is the surface access. How do we get passengers to the airport and away from the airport? And it's making sure that we've got a coherent road and rail surface access strategy that can expand logically as the demand grows. And for a huge number of big airports, the determining feature is not the airfield, it's not the airspace, it's not the terminal capacity, it is how can we get passengers to the airport. Indra mentioned Dublin, and look at the master plan there, and the core challenge there is providing surface access to get the passengers there. We can provide the airspace easily, we can provide the terminal capacity reasonably easily, we can get the airfield layout right to be able to accommodate over 50 million passengers a year. The key challenge is how can we get the passengers in and out of the terminal. The key challenge in terms of how we deal with this. But within the airport boundary, what are the key factors that you've got to look at in terms of getting this best practice? And I think it's got to address 3 core issues. And the whole of the design team, the development teams, the operational teams have to focus on these 3 components. One is getting the operational efficiencies right. We've got to make sure that the aircraft move in the air smoothly, efficiently, move on the ground smoothly, efficiently, get in and out of the stand smoothly and efficiently. We've got to make sure that the airport operations within the terminals runs efficiently. We get the best utility out of all the staff and all the stakeholders who work there. And that's got to be a collaborative approach to make sure that works. But increasingly, we've got to make sure that the airports work well as businesses. They've got to be driving their commercial performance and getting the best possible advantage out of the asset that they've got. And that asset is in terms of using the passengers who go through and the commercial opportunities that they offer, be it through retail, catering offers, car parking, but also through the other aspects that go on around an airport, the development opportunities for hotels and commercial offices. It's a well-established principle. If you build an airport, everybody wants to come and live beside it. Now, the amount of demand that comes up for the space around it is remarkable, and the amount of business opportunities that generates is truly exceptional, and it's up to every airport owner to try and find the most appropriate utility for all of that opportunity. But the final point I just want to dwell on here in terms of what are you trying to do, it's about getting the passenger experience right and doing that so the passengers move through the airport in an enjoyable fashion for them. What's key for them is that it has to be a hassle-free experience. They don't want there to be queues, they want the processes to be smooth, processes through security. They all accept now that security has to be done and it's an intrusive aspect, but they want it to be done efficiently. So the whole aspect of making sure the passenger's experience through an airport is an enjoyable and pleasant one is perhaps where the architects begin to come in and have a real bearing. But we shouldn't overemphasize what is important to passengers. In terms of what we've assessed in looking at the surveys that have been done in numerous airports in numerous conditions, is from a passenger's perspective, the key things are that they want the space to be spacious, they want volume around them, and there's some fantastic examples of how that gets done well here in the Middle East. But they also want things to be well lit. So it's got to be as beautiful a space as possible, provided by good lighting, daylighting, and artificial lighting. And the sort of concluding point I'd like to make in terms of looking at airport expansion and how do you plan for these is to understand that we do not know what the future is. The one thing that you can be certain about everybody's forecast is it will be wrong. We just never know how wrong it will be. So the real challenge for the airport professionals advising airport owners is to understand how well can these alternative solutions accommodate different scenarios. If there are different ratios of international and domestic, different ratios of transfer and O&D passengers, and testing the robustness of a plan is about making sure that it works under different scenarios. And I think that's all important in terms of making sure you've got the best possible future in terms of looking after your future airport expansion plans.
Great.
Well done.
Thank you very much, Alan, for your roadmap that you have drawn for future implementation and the approach you suggested for which we can extend over a period of time. Should you have one or two questions, you're most welcome to put across to any one of the panelists.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Charles from Huawei Technologies. My question is to His Excellency Mr. Khalifa Zafin. We can see now like booming in the transportation sector in UAE. You have Etihad Rail project, Dubai Airport expansion project, Abu Dhabi Metro expansions, Abu Dhabi Metro coming soon. And we can see also like the DWC will come up soon if UAE will win, and which is expected the Expo 2020. So my question is, when DWC will be the main hub of the airport transportation sector in UAE, and will it kill Dubai Airport and Abu Dhabi Airport once you have the train coming from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, taking passenger from Abu Dhabi to the DWC Al Maktoum International Airport, and when we expect to see Emirates Airline in DWC? Thank you.
I think I didn't hear you really very well. But the gist of it, I think what I understand is, correct me if I am wrong, you're talking about the expansion of Dubai International Airport, you are talking about the expansion of Al Maktoum Airport in Dubai World Central, Jebel Ali, you are talking about the expansion of Abu Dhabi Airport and the link between these three airports, yes? Yeah. Definitely within Dubai itself, we have a few different color-coded line, you know, and one of them is the purple line that will come in the future and serve the airport. Basically, it will be serving the Al Maktoum Airport in Dubai World Central, Jebel Ali, and that one will be really like remote stations and the high density, you know, demographical areas where people would check in and would come to the airport. They don't have to come in here, and it is well integrated within our design now. If you look at the Union Rail, which is coming from Abu Dhabi, you are having two types. You have one which is freighter, which will be coming to the free zone area, stroke Jebel Ali Port, and eventually we will have one branch coming to Dubai World Central, mainly really to the logistics side of things, and eventually it will continue to throughout the whole Emirate North to Fujairah. There is a passenger one which will be coming exactly on the same, I would say parallel to the route of our Dubai Purple Line passenger commuter or metro that will be coming through the Midfield terminal. Both of them will come there, and they will be feeding in and taken from the terminal itself. So we are trying to accommodate for both in our design, if that answers your question. It's a very difficult question, and the reason for that is to build a terminal that would make Emirates Airline transfer in totality to Jabal Ali, you are talking at least 100 million passenger terminal. To do that, you are looking at something beyond $30 billion of investment. And then you are taking at the time that will take to build such facilities. If we start today, you are looking at 10 more years to come, probably. Nevertheless, the design are going on. They are almost mature designs. And we are not going to wait for Emirates Airline to come to Al Maktoum International. Other airlines are coming in there, and there is a lot of things happening from a cargo point of view, from Emirates cargo point of view, from the general aviation, and from the small terminal building which is already there that will start operating by October the 27th. But for the big move, you know, it's going to be a while, at least, you know, within 10 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Shukran.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much. With this answer, the session comes to an end. I wish to thank, on behalf of the organizers, all the the panelists who share their thoughts with us, and the audience to give us a very patient listening and sharing the thoughts with us. Thank you very much.